family, Pastor Dan here, and to visitors, welcome to our devotional channel here at Rockhampton Baptist. Now we're continuing through looking at Hebrews, and we're getting to Hebrews chapter 12, and there's a section here that talks about suffering. Now each of us have gone through some level of suffering, some more severe than others, but the author of Hebrews here draws us back to the suffering of Jesus. He says in Hebrews 12 verse 3, it says, "Consider him," that is Jesus, "who endured from sinners such hostility against himself, so that you may not grow weary or faint-hearted. In your struggle against sin, you have not yet resisted to the point of shedding your blood." Now the author here clearly knows what the listeners are going through. He knows a level that they are going through and a sense of persecution that maybe they've gone through already, or they're about to go through, and maybe it's building up this sense of persecution that's coming. And so there's this real encouragement here to not grow weary in the midst of it. And he draws it on the suffering of Jesus, this idea of shedding of blood. We see this in the agony of Jesus. Luke chapter 22, as Jesus prays on the Mount of Olives. He hadn't even gone to the cross yet, but there's that real agony in the prayer. It's this real prayer of, "Father, if you're willing, remove this cup from me. Remove this cup. Nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done." And Luke makes this interesting observation from one of the disciples and there appeared to him an angel of heaven strengthening him. And being in agony, he prayed more earnestly. That's Jesus. And his sweat became like great drops of blood falling down to the ground. Now, was he actually sweating blood, or it was just the sweat was that thick like blood? We don't know, but there's a sense of that real agony in there. And so when the Hebrews authors are talking about "consider him so that you will not grow weary," it starts to put these things into perspective. And then we got one of the most well-known verses in Isaiah 53, talking about the agony of Jesus that he would go through. "But he was pierced for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. Upon him the chastisement that brought us peace, and with his wounds we are healed." The suffering that Jesus went through, what Jesus went through, it can't compare to the suffering that we've probably gone through. Maybe some have gone through some level of suffering, and maybe some of the hearers, the original ones, will go through that level of suffering, that level of persecution. But in the midst of that, the encouragement here is consider him. Consider Jesus. In all that we do, consider him, and that we will not grow weary. The life that we have as followers of Jesus is not a life that is easy and rosy and all good. There is some level of suffering. There is some level of trials that God takes us through, that God leads us through, not to wear us out, but to actually trust him more. And so the author is reminding that in the midst of those things, in the midst of those trials here on earth, consider him, consider Jesus and all that he did for us, so that you will not grow weary, so that you will not be faint-hearted, and that you will hold firm to the truth that Jesus has for us. And so that's a great encouragement I pass on to you, to not grow weary and consider Jesus. Let me pray today. Lord, we thank you. We thank you for all that you've done, Lord, the fact that we can read about in such great detail all that you've done upon the cross, all that was prophesied before, and the encouragement from the author here in Hebrews to not grow weary. Lord, help us today, Lord, not to grow weary. Lord, in the midst of whatever trouble or struggle that we're going through, Lord, we ask that you help us to remember you, to lift our eyes upon you so that we will not grow weary. Amen. Keep walking with him. Hold on to this encouragement to not grow weary. and keep trusting His Word as you read it. And keep looking for opportunities to bless others. Bless others with this truth, but bless others with the wisdom and care that you have for them.